Hello, and welcome to a discussion about conflict resolution. October is Conflict Resolution Month, and more than ever, 2020 may have made conflict a little more likely, whether being confined in a tight space with others, the added stress from COVID-19, the presidential election, or even shifting dynamics when you don't see your coworkers every day. Anything can add to the stress that leads to conflict. Luckily, if done right, conflict can actually be a very positive experience. My name is Noah Michelson, and I work in the External Relations Office. I'm joined today by JSC's conflict experts, Donna Blackshear Reynolds, the JSC Ombudsman, Bridget Broussard-Guidry, the President of the AFGE Union, Monica Lee Foley, JSC's Center Anti-Harassment Coordinator, Jackie Reese, Director of the Employee Assistance Program, Robert Blake, Deputy Director for the JSC Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity, and Deborah Urbanski, Director of the JSC Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity. We're going to start today by explaining what conflict is and how different conflict styles are formed. Deborah, would you like to start us off?
Absolutely. And thanks so much for having us here, Noah. We're thrilled because every October in celebration, and it is a celebration for us, of Conflict Resolution Month, the JSC Resolving Issues team, which we have here today, hosts a program on conflict skills because it's really one of the most important topics you could discuss. It started basically to promote awareness of mediation and other creative, peaceful means of resolving conflict. We like to promote the use of conflict resolution in all of our workplace activities. And we want to recognize the significant contributions of this team today. But like you said, conflict doesn't have to be a bad thing. Many good things have possibly come from conflict in all of our lives. So I think it's really important to open today with how conflict starts for us and our viewpoints of conflict actually, and how our childhood experience how we deal with conflict, and then how our behaviors can either, through training and learning, can either recreate new experiences for us and skills, or they can promote the same old ways of doing things. So our beliefs, our conflicts, and our responses and our consequences is what we'd like to talk about, just to start us off with a little bit of theory around it. So if Rob's going to help me by going to the slide that we have on conflict, the cycle, and the types. So when we're very young, we have certain beliefs that form very early in our life. And those can be from how we've watched either our parents or significant people in our lives deal with conflict. For instance, my parents rarely fought or argued in front of us. So I really believe that, married couples just, that's why they got married. They didn't have conflict. Lo and behold, I was really shocked when I became married and conflict did exist. So I taught the younger people in my life that conflict is there and that you can be very good about dealing with it so that they won't be shocked when they get married. But there are conflicts that exist in our life, usually in three sort of ways. We have internal conflicts, things about deciding things. They could be even about deeply held internal conflicts around finances and whether or not to have children, all those kind of things that you think about and you're internally conflicted about. Then you have conflicts within your friends and family, and you usually deal with these differently. How I would deal with something inside versus with people outside is probably very different. And then when we go outside into the world, in the workplace, for instance, and even in the war and elections and all the things you mentioned, there's a different way of sort of seeing and dealing with conflict. And it causes us those beliefs that we learned early on, or through trainings, or through good or bad thoughts around conflict. Those cause us to respond in certain ways, and the ways that we respond, pardon me, are over here on the left with the Thomas Kilmann conflict model. So sometimes we choose to compete. So lawyers are typically thought of as competing. And oftentimes when we're young, we learn to give and take. Compromise is something that's very easy for us to understand. You give me something and I give you something in return. Avoiding is something that some people do quite often. If something is not tolerable to them, they just will walk away. Sometimes that is seen as passive aggressive. A lot of times people will accommodate, especially if your relationship is very good with the person. You'll want to please them. What we'd like to concentrate on helping most employees with is collaborating, because we feel like that's a real win-win for them. But what we want to do is, going back to the conflict cycle, is to understand that that's the only place where we have choices, is in our own response to conflict. When we respond in certain ways, it tends to either exacerbate the situation or it helps the situation. And so those consequences can sometimes make our beliefs even stronger, or they can change our beliefs. So that is how the conflict cycle works. So let's talk a little bit more about those ways that we respond. We suggest to people, when you're going to be in a conflict situation or are in a conflict situation, that you ask yourself two questions. What is my goal in this situation, and what is my relationship? And you can see the axis on that model, and that'll help you very quickly. And that's why we like this, because it's a real visual. It'll help you very quickly say, if my relationship is something I want to keep intact and I need to keep intact, like a workplace relationship, but my goal is still very high, then you want to get towards the compromising, accommodating, or collaborating. For instance, if you feel strongly about something, competing is always an option, but recall that there's high risk in that. But if it's a very important topic, like for instance, when Rosa Parks kept her seat on the bus, she was in a competitive mode there. She was not going to budge, but she had a high risk and she tolerated some pretty harsh behavior because of that. When we are avoiding, like I said, oftentimes we will not have a high goal perhaps, but it doesn't seem to help the relationship. But that's a good thing to do when the risk outweighs the gain. For instance, if you are driving on the freeway and somebody cuts you off, you could have a real problem if you tried to catch up with them and have a fight there. We've all seen those things on the news. So that's a little bit about those ways of doing something. Accommodating to me is something that I like to do when the situation is really easy. You know, when somebody that I really like or want to please asks me, for instance, where do you want to go for lunch? And I don't really feel strongly about it, I let them pick. You can practice these things in very low risk situations too. Like I said, compromising, give and take, we're all very familiar with that. But that is also a win-lose situation, because you have to give up something to get something. The only place where you can not have to give up something is in collaborating, because each party hopefully gives a lot of thought to the interests and needs of both party and tries to figure out a win-win situation for them. And so we work a lot on that in our office and with these other offices to teach not only skills around that and mentor and coach, but also we provide a lot of exercises like mediation and some trainings as well. So that, I think, kind of lays out the different ways of handling conflict.
And thank you so much, Deborah. That was really awesome. And now that we have this, better understanding of the foundation of conflict and the importance of recognizing that none of us are immune, I'd like to hop around some of the different offices to learn what specialties that each office has. So Donna, if you'd be able to start and kind of discuss, your background and how your office works to resolve issues.
Sure. I'd love to talk about the Ombudsman program as one of the two JSC ombudsmen. The Ombuds program was established to address recommendations of the Columbia Accident Investigation Board. So folks can come to us with any kind of issue, whether it's a safety issue, a personnel issue, civil service or contractor issue, and all of those will be dealt with at an informal manner. And this is to complement our formal resources. Visitors come to us, identify the issue or concern while maintaining confidentiality. If they'd like us to speak with someone or try to help to resolve the issue, the policy and so forth, we can do that, but we will only do it with their permission. So we maintain confidentiality, neutrality. If the visitor comes to us and they need an advocate, then we would rely on some of our partners in the Resolving Issues team to do that. Our main goal is to help in developing options. We will listen to the visitor and try to help them with what Deborah was saying earlier about, what is your goal? And then we can think about what are the best ways to maybe resolve that. And in this role, I do report to the center director. I have direct access to all the senior management. So if there is an issue that someone wants to bring forward in a confidential manner, they can come to me or Glenn Lutz. We are the two JSC ombudsmen.
That is so powerful. Thank you. Jackie, would you like to go next and talk about EAP?
Sure, thank you. So my office is part of the health benefits for every employee at Johnson Space Center and at White Sands Test Facility. We take care of the mental health and wellness for both of those centers. We're really fortunate in that we're allowed to be a full service EAP, which means that we do more than just assess and refer. So we do counseling, we do a lot of education through presentations, and we cover any mental health issues. And so, of course, relationships are part of that, and conflicts in relationships are part of that, whether that be conflicts that are going on at home or conflicts between coworkers. Sometimes folks come to us as a consult. Sometimes a conflict is revealed through the course of us working with somebody in counseling, or sometimes we address those in our presentations. But it gives us an opportunity to teach people not to avoid conflict and to teach them skills that they might need to better work through conflicts, whether it be with coworkers or supervisors at work or with their family members. We have a lot of information, of course, on our website about that. We're under employee resources on the JSC homepage, and then, of course, as part of the Resolving Issues team.
Thank you. Monica, can you talk about anti-harassment?
Hi, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I am Monica Foley. I am the center's anti-harassment coordinator. I'm also the chief of staff here, which speaks volumes. It says that this is a priority for our center directors, that we do not tolerate harassment within our organizations. I have a co-chair of the Center Anti-Harassment Office, and her name is Carol Harvey. Either of us are available. Send us an email if you feel that you have an issue or you are being harassed because of any of the protected groups, included race and gender. We keep our conversations confidential unless we need to conduct a fact-finding or an investigation, but we only do so with your permission. We work closely with ODEO. If we feel that the case is better suited that way, we will inform you and advise you to get the best help that's possible. And we also rely upon EAP to help our folks cope with dealings that happen in the gates. Not extremely often, but any occurrence is well too often. So we look forward to working with you if and when you ever need us. We are here to make sure you have the support that you need. It's very important to us and to your leaders here at the center. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Deborah, I'll go back over to you if you want to briefly describe the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity. And I think you may be muted, Deborah.
Yep, they told us to mute. The statement of the century, right? The Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity helps resolve people problems before they become legal problems. Our office oversees any concerns related to discrimination, diversity and inclusion, and disability awareness. Additionally, we offer conflict coaching, mediation, and facilitation. It's vital that employees understand their rights under the law, and NASA has many policies that protect employees. And so we want employees to feel equipped and empowered to face their challenges with the guidance and understanding of our office and these resolving issue teams. So we hope that every employee understands the importance of two-way conversation, and that's why we highlight Conflict Resolution Month. And we're coming to our office is really key in a timely manner. It's also important for people to understand that coming to our office they should not experience retaliation in any way for speaking up with a member of our office. And we also work very closely with all of the resolving issues partners to ensure that conflict is resolved. It's some of the things we've been talking about today seem very basic, but it is very much like safety. Every year, I know the things I'm supposed to do to stay safe. I know that I'm supposed to not look at my cell phone when I'm walking towards my car. I know I'm supposed to have my keys out. I know I'm supposed to be aware of my surroundings. And yet I become kind of complacent and I don't do those things. And so if I have a training or if I have a just-in-time moment, then for a few days, I am very cognizant of those things and I'm very good about them. So that's why we say when conflict happens, if you'll come and get some help from these professionals, you might do better, because your conflict behavior in the workplace is a result of not only your personal predispositions that we talked about earlier, but the requirements of the situations in which you find yourself. And today, with this challenging, strange world, it can become very complex. So thank you.
Thank you. And Bridget, can you just briefly talk about the AFGE union?
Yes, AFGE is the exclusive bargaining agent for most civil servant, representing the interests with respect to personnel policies, practice, and matters affecting the working conditions. We also represent the bargaining unit employees with performance, conduct, and investigative inquiries with the goal of solving at the lowest possible level to get the issue resolved.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that. Now that we kind of have, this viewpoint of what each different area does to help manage conflict and solve it on site, I'd like to hop into some specific best practices that employees may be able to exhibit either at home or at work. So Jackie, would you be able to start us off?
Sure. One of the things that I teach folks, probably the most important thing with conflict, is first of all to lean in, because a lot of our folks tend to be very conflict avoidant, and then it doesn't get any better. It just gets worse and worse and worse, or it simmers and then boils over at some point. So I teach folks to lean in and also to listen to the other person in an attempt to understand where they're coming from, instead of listening to build up your own talking points or to refute or to win. I encourage them to first try to step in the other person's shoes, because until you do that, you're not going to have a full understanding of what the conflict is about. And for folks to do that, they have to be willing to set aside their own filters, their own preconceived notions about things, their own beliefs, and they have to be prepared to learn something and to maybe be wrong about something. I don't think you can get anywhere with resolving a conflict until you have that attitude that you take into the conflict. So that's the starting point for us. We have more information about that on our website. I did a presentation called Listening to Walk in Your Shoes that teaches people the things that you need to be able to approach a conflict instead of avoiding it and to try to resolve it successfully. So there's more information about that on the website if folks are interested.
Thank you so much. Bridget, do you have any best practices to share?
The best practice is to address issues as they arise. Don't, like Jackie said, don't let them fester. It's better to have the conversation because people's intent and perceptions are real. It's their reality. So the earlier that you can address the situation, the better off you'll be in resolving it and not harbor feelings that linger, and it can be easily resolved with a conversation. And I work with the other. Yeah, so we work very closely. If an employee comes to me with an issue and I think they need to see Jackie, I will refer them to Jackie for assistance. If they sound like it's EEO related for a protected class with sexism or gender or race, then I refer them to the EEO office. And I'm also available to mediate with employees if that need arises. Again, our goal is to resolve things at the lowest possible level.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put all the contact information in the body of the story underneath the video in case employees need to reach out. Donna, is there anything you can share with us?
Sure. Of course, I agree with, what's already been stated. Of course, we can't emphasize more the Covey listen to understand and not to be understood. And don't assume that others know what you want or how you feel, or that you know what they want or how they feel. So get confirmation by asking questions and, trying to check in your assumption. Make sure that you look at the conflict from both sides. Putting yourself in the other shoes, as we've heard, really seems to make a difference. And be sure you know what result you're seeking. Determine in the best of all possible worlds, what is your objective? And then what are the best ways you might approach to get to that objective? Think about questions that others may have or what you may have not communicated. Think about what you've tried. Typically, being honest and direct, even if it's hard, is the best way to be sure the person with whom you're having the conflict understands your perspective. And know that motives are unknowable. So just remember the expected behaviors. Don't allow someone else to get you in trouble. Take a moment before you hit send on that email or ruin your side of the ledger, because it's your decision on how you behave. No one can make you do anything. Don't give others that power. It's your choice on how you react. So we may not have control of the situation, but we do control how we react. Don't assume anything, be clear. And of course, I also refer others to others on the Resolving Issues team who are experts in all of these areas.
That was awesome. That sounded kind of like poetry. Monica, would you like to follow that?
Follow that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, sure. That was quite eloquent, Donna. Thank you. And I agree with all of our panelists here. I can give you an acronym, TATTOO, TATTOO. Think about the thinking of others, right? So in our environment, think about how folks feel based off of their positional perspectives, right? If you're a supervisor, think about how you're speaking to your subordinates and folks that support you in a way. That makes a difference. Folks need to, first of all, give people the benefit of the doubt initially. I don't think anybody comes to work with the intent to be a horrible coworker and to hurt someone's feelings and to not do. So it starts with communication. Everything is about perspective and the experiences that person carries. So speaking in a manner which may be completely normal for 89% of your team may not work for the remainder. And that just starts with the dialogue one-on-one. But our office, of course, is here to help you talk through those things, understand cultural differences, and and just how we differ as humans, which makes this such a wonderful experience on this journey called life. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All of these tips are so powerful, and I know that this is going to go a long way in furthering NASA's new Unity message. So Deborah, on that note, I was wondering if you can leave us with some parting words on the importance of unity to the NASA family.
Yes, sure, Noah, and we really appreciate your help today. So at NASA, we're all working towards the same mission. That's the call to action of the agency-wide Unity campaign and the new value of inclusion. It's to transcend the artificial barriers that we put up between us, the ones that we've been talking about today, and to connect each of us as people who explore space. So we hope that this brief program highlighted some of the group organizations that are doing great work to help all of you, and that you will take time to visit the website and to tell other people about this if you know that they're hurting as well. Thanks.
Well, great. And Rob, it looks like we have a user submitted question for you. We'll get in really quick before we hop off. We know you're an avid reader. Are there any books on conflict you might be able to recommend from Dr. Berkman or from Books 24/7?
Yeah, Dr. Brinkman put out a really good book about dealing with conflict, and we brought him here last year to speak to the greater JSU workforce. And so I definitely recommend him as an author in general. His last book that I read, Dealing with Meetings You Can't Stand, kind of walks you through how to interact with folks in meetings in ways that make those meetings have better potential. I would say that most of our resources are listed through our website for the Resolving Issues team. And I hope that everyone watching this will use that Resolving Issues team website to find the resources that meet their needs specifically. I know that we're going to show a video walking employees through that new website, and we're really excited with the way that it interacts with employees in order to identify their specific needs. So check out the resources there, definitely. And then also, if you ever need help or assistance with anything, any of these professionals are here to help guide you through any conflict. And conflict is something everybody experiences, but nobody's good at. So these folks know what they're doing and they can help you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rob. And thank all of you for being here today. We're sure this program will, do a lot of benefit as we start to transition back to work on site and enter a challenging time with the election and with the COVID-19 pandemic ongoing. So thank you all. We hope you stay safe and best of luck throughout the rest of the year.